Okay. Today we're talking about the Hofmann Tower in Lyons, Illinois. 11 miles south of the Chicago Loop is Lyons, Illinois. The marshy region that is now 47th and Harlem separates waters that flow into the Great Lakes from waters that flow into the Mississippi River. During the wet season, Native Americans could travel the south branch of the Chicago River to the Des Plaines through an area called Mud Lake. In 1827, the first dam at the site was built by the Lawton brothers. A waterfall was formed by a limestone shelf which at one time marked the shores of Lake Chicago, which was an ancestor of Lake Michigan. The Lawtons used this geological feature to power the first sawmill in northeastern Illinois, which resulted in a period of urban growth and established the area as a trading town. In 1866, the Fox brothers purchased the site and established the Riverside Milling Company. A short 40 years later, the dam and surrounding properties were purchased by the brewery owner George W. Hofmann, Jr. His beer was featured at Dottie's Tavern, built on the former site of the Riverside Milling Company, and sold across the street at the Triangle Building. The Triangle Building was thought to have been built in 1857, making it the oldest building in Lyons. Originally a wooden building, it had been remodeled in the 20th century and faced with stone to resemble the tower across the street by George Hofmann. This building caught fire in 2013 and was completely demolished. The Hofmann Tower was built in 1908 and was added to the National Register of Historic Places on December 22, 1978. Hofmann hired the H.W. Sauber Construction Company to build a tower inspired by one at Delwood Park in Lockport, Illinois. Upon its completion, Hofmann Tower was the tallest building in Illinois west of downtown Chicago. With visions for a grand recreation area, Hofmann began improving the grounds for his attraction, Niagara Park, named for the outcrop of bedrock on the floor of the Des Plaines at the dam site. The tower became a centerpiece for his Niagara Park, and people could visit the top to see the world from above. It was also said that Hofmann had an office inside of the building. Niagara Park's beer garden and facilities occupied the scenic triangle section of land surrounded by present-day Joliet Road, Berry Point Road, and Ogden Avenue, also known as Route 66. Around the 1920s, the brewery was said to have been rented out by John Torrio, who was Al Capone's protege. He was also said to have been responsible for the murder of Big Jim Colosimo, but that's a different story. This was until Chicago's reform mayor William Denver had the brewery cited for prohibition violations and shut down. The success of Niagara Park diminished as the exploding population began dumping raw sewage into the river. Intended to contain a pool of water for boating, the Hofmann Dam instead retained raw sewage and sludge. This, together with prohibition, forced George Hofmann out of business in the 1920s. However, he did not go quietly. Appalled by the raw sewage that contributed to the demise of Niagara Park, he adamantly opposed dumping activities and advocated for sanitation of the Des Plaines. Attempting to halt the spread of pollution, Hofmann refused demands to open his floodgates and let the sludge and sewage pass. The Sanitary District of Chicago built a bypass dam in 1928 in order to divert the accumulated pollutants. In 1950, the state of Illinois replaced the curved dam with a straight dam a short distance downstream. Once the tower closed, it sat quietly for decades, falling into disrepair. The first windows were bricked up while the rest were removed. The wooden stairs which once carried visitors to the roof were slowly destroyed by rain and snow. Concerned citizens made an effort to return the tower to its former glory in the 1970s. Today the site is still closed, but the Riverwalk remains open. Some people believe that Hofmann built this tower as a tribute to his wife, who passed away in 1902. Others say he was inspired by the bridge towers in Germany. A common assumption is that he just built the tower as a tourist attraction. Regardless of the reason, people are still talking about the tower today, and it remains as mysteriously and majestic as ever.